The state of Virginia just flipped a big bird to the NCAA and passed new NIL legislation. We're going to talk about that new legislation, how it will impact college football, and more specifically, how it could impact my team, the West Virginia Mountaineers. So pull up a chair, and we're going to talk about all this right after this word from our sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you. What is up? Welcome in. Make yourself comfortable. Belly yourself up to the bar, and let me pour you out another shot of top-shelf college football content. On tap in today's episode of Couz's Corner, we're talking about the new name, image, and likeness legislation just signed by Governor George Youngkin in the state of Virginia. Now, this new legislation is going to greatly benefit the schools of the Virginia Cavaliers, the Virginia Tech Hokies, the James Madison Dukes, go on and on, Old Dominion, all the schools, Liberty, all the schools in the state of Virginia will be positively impacted by this new legislation. I'm going to share an article with you from over at SI.com that talks about this new NIL law in the state of Virginia, then tell you how it can impact my team, the West Virginia Mountaineers. Virginia governor signs NIL law that could significantly change college sports landscape. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin signed an NIL bill into law on Thursday that could significantly change the college sports landscape. Effective July 1, schools in Virginia can directly pay student athletes for name, image, and likeness. The law that Youngkin signed on Thursday made it illegal for the NCAA to punish a school for compensating athletes for their NIL rights. Currently, the NCAA prohibits schools from signing NIL deals with their own student athletes. This has led to the creation of NIL collectives, which are separate entities from the schools themselves that pay players for their NIL. Now, NIL collectives will be able to work even more closely with the schools themselves in regards to player compensation and remove the gray area that existed between schools and their NIL collectives. The impact of this law on college athletics could be substantial, both for schools inside and outside of the state of Virginia. Beginning later this summer, schools in Virginia will have more freedom in pursuing compensation for student athletes, allowing universities like Virginia Tech, Virginia, James Madison, and others to have an upper hand on the recruiting trail until further notice. This will likely expedite the timeline of NCAA rules changes to NIL to allow schools outside of Virginia to reap the same benefits that schools in the Commonwealth will ostensibly have beginning in July. Last December, NCAA President Charlie Baker proposed potential rules changes stipulating that all schools should be able to pay athletes via NIL deals as part of a plan to update NIL policies. In order for any rules changes to take effect, voting members of Division I athletics need to vote on the measures. To date, no vote has taken place on the potential rules changes, but Virginia's law set in stone on Thursday will certainly bring voting members to the bargaining table sooner rather than later. Until that occurs, schools in Virginia will have a benefit in NIL compensation that schools in other states won't have. That in and of itself is notable. So basically, Virginia Tech, Virginia, and all schools in the state of Virginia can now pay their student athletes NIL money and help them negotiate NIL deals and all of that directly. They do not have to go through collectives. Now, the NCAA, it's my understanding the NCAA passed a rule a few weeks ago that did loosen the rules with schools and were allowing them to help students get NIL deals, but not pay them directly. Well, this one in the state of Virginia goes above and beyond that, and they're now allowed to pay them directly. Man, I'm telling you, the timing of this, to me, is not coincidental. Think about it. The transfer portal just opened earlier this week. This law takes effect July 1 before the start of the football season. So if a transfer portal player, if a player's in the transfer portal right now, guess what? Virginia and Virginia Tech can use this law to their advantage to try to get those student athletes to their school. This could cause the floodgates to open even more for the transfer portal. There might be players who were considering transferring, may have had their eye on a Virginia Tech or Virginia, but were kind of, on the fence about it or skittish about it. With this law, they might say, you know what? I'm getting in the portal. I'm going to Virginia Tech, or I'm going to Virginia, or I'm going to Liberty, or I'm going to James Madison or Old Dominion or whoever. This could change everything. And when you look at a school like my team, West Virginia, and yes, we're in a different conference from Virginia, but we are in a state right next door. West Virginia's competing for a lot of the same players, not only in the portal, but also along the recruiting trail. 16 of West Virginia's 22 signees in the 2024 class in football were within a 6-hour radius, 6-hour drive of Morgantown, West Virginia. A lot of those same guys are also within a 6-hour drive of Blacksburg, Virginia, or even Charlottesville, Virginia. They're recruiting for a lot of the same players. A lot of competition. West Virginia already has to fight an uphill battle because of geography, being in a small state, a lot of those other things. West Virginia already has to fight an uphill battle in recruiting already. They have great facilities. It's a great college town. They have a great culture there now that Coach Brown has built and is really still building. A lot of positive things going for West Virginia, but there are a lot of things out of their control that work against them. Now, when a player is looking to choose between Virginia Tech and West Virginia, or Virginia and West Virginia, or whatever, Virginia Tech or Virginia is going to be able to say, look, we can pay your student-athlete NIL money directly from our athletics funds. West Virginia can't do that. Now, as of right now, it's my understanding. Now, somebody correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section. But the way I understand it right now, the state of West Virginia has no laws on the books governing name, image, and likeness. Now, at one time, that was considered an advantage because they could basically do whatever they wanted as long as it was within NCAA guidelines and not have to worry about breaking any state laws. Right? Well, now, with Virginia signing this state law, making it illegal for the NCAA to sue the state of Virginia, well, West Virginia doesn't have that law, so they still have to follow the NCAA guidelines, as gray as they may be, out of fear of getting in trouble. So I'm of the opinion that if I'm an administrator at West Virginia, and heck, even if I'm an administrator at Marshall, who has to recruit against Old Dominion and Liberty and James Madison, if I'm an administrator at one of those schools, at either of those schools, I'm going to Charleston. I'm speaking to the state legislators, and I'm saying, look, we need to pass a law just like the state of Virginia just did, or at least close to it, so that we don't get left behind in the recruiting and the transfer portal game, which could hurt us on the playing field or the playing courts. That needs to be done, in my opinion, and they need to do it sooner rather than later. Now, eventually, Congress could get involved, but who knows if and when that'll ever happen. And I say eventually the NCAA is going to make it legal anyway for schools to pay student athletes. But when is that going to be? These coaches are trying to win right now. And if it takes 2-3 years for the NCAA to pass this or change this law, Virginia Tech could gain an upper hand here. And they could do it quickly, as early as this season. And I'm sure Whit Babcock, the AD at Virginia Tech, and the AD and presidents at Virginia, I'm sure they already have a plan in place to address, and the coaches, can't leave the coaches out. I'm sure they have a plan in place to use this to their advantage already because they knew this was coming. They've been planning for this. Matter of fact, I read an article in another publication earlier that said basically the same thing. They're prepared for it. They're ready. They're not giving away any secrets, obviously, but they're probably going to hit the ground running and using this to their advantage. How will Neil Brown and company combat that in Morgantown? It'll be interesting to see. And the NCAA is probably not going to come down on Virginia Tech if they utilize this new rule for two reasons. One, Charlie Baker, he wants this to happen anyway, and he's the president of the NCAA. So he's probably going to discourage the enforcement people from cracking down on this. And two, even if they did, they're probably going to lose in the courtroom because let's face it, When is the last time the NCAA won anything in a courtroom? I sure can't remember when. Can you? Let me know in the comments. Let me know also your thoughts on this entire situation. And West Virginia fans, are you a little worried about this law? And do you think the state of West Virginia needs to do something to combat it? Let me know. Want to give a shout out right now to my VIP members of this show. If you want to become a VIP member, all you have to do is hit the join button below. If you don't see a join button, go to my home channel YouTube page. There's a join button right beside my profile photo. You can hit that. It shows you the 2 levels, the perks that go with each level. And you can join right there and become a paid VIP member. The member shout outs today: Tax Sprint, C. Dotson B210, Tom Reinhart, and Todd Biela. Thank the 4 of you for being VIP members. I plan to have a VIP member only video up very soon. I've been dragging my feet on that, just been extremely busy. But I do plan to have more members only videos out soon. And there are also other perks for channel members. You can check them all out at the join after hitting the join button. Also want to remind you that I have a merch store. Go check out my merch store. Get yourself a hat, a hoodie, a ball cap, a t-shirt, a coffee mug. There are a lot of items over there to choose from. You can get my channel logo as well as some other really cool designs like the ones you see on the screen right now. If you want to check out another episode about WVU football, check out this one right here. I appreciate you tuning into this episode. And until the next one, cue Country Roads.